Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to Black Free Thinkers.
It's
Ah,
been a while.
it's been a while.
I didn't think
I
I'd
take
ever see the show
responsibility for
again.
that. Hey, me, I'm a prima donna. I needed my salary upgraded. You know what I'm saying? I needed that compensation multiplied. You know what I'm talking about?
All right.
I
Now,
had the whole,
before we
I
go
held up
live,
everything. I held Skeptic Haven
you did.
hostage.
Now we're getting double zero. I am loving it.
You already know.
Oh my God. King Louis vibes over here.
We getting zero times a whole bunch these days.
Man.
Oh man. So look, y'all. I'm so happy to have this show back on. Though we did get some technical stuff worked out though, and it's a little bit easier for some of us to guest host Skeptic Haven stuff. We got a little bit of better technical access. And I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't think people realize, but like there's a lot of different softwares that people use to either premiere their videos or go lives or do whatever they do. And Skeptic Haven has changed software and stuff like that. But we all host our own shows. So I was like, y'all just need to hook me up with the keys and security codes so I could just hit that little Skeptic Haven button and go live the way we used to. So appreciate Wes for helping me get that worked out.
Yeah, big
Go
ups
ahead,
to
go ahead.
Wes. Big ups to Wes.
Yeah, because wouldn't you want to do the same thing? Like, just all right, I'm already used to doing Bad Science Sunday. Let me
Yeah.
just hit the Skeptic Haven button, and now I'm good to go. I don't have to
Right.
figure out
Yeah.
nothing new. I don't have to learn nothing else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all good. So, all right, so we're here to talk about Maya. They're doing police violence to Black people. Don't
No.
fall out your chair.
This is new news to me.
Yeah, I hope we find a way to sleep tonight, and that you and your loved ones are okay during this difficult time. Uh, but yeah, it's still happening. But I wanted to kind of talk about something that I think gets overlooked a lot in these conversations, and that's fear, right? Because I feel like in these type of situations, that's the start of dehumanization, when you lose touch with another person's humanity and you can't empathize and understand how afraid they might be in a
Oh, we actually
certain
have studies on that.
circumstance. Yeah. Oh, see, I don't know. See, I wasn't even gonna go there, but that's what you bring to the show. But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and it's so weird. And studies, even when I was watching one, I was watching a video earlier today where they were talking to, honestly, Korean kids, and they were trying to see like what stereotypes look for them. And so they'd show a picture of, an Indian girl is Indian, like a girl from India, the
Got
country,
you.
yeah, and a Korean girl, white girl, black girl, and you got initially when it's just pictures, a lot of what you would see with the white dye, black dye test. But when they gave them a name, just the simple like a name, and they would have been like names that were indigenous to the group, right? But um, it humanized the pictures for them. And then he said, "Well, tell me a story. What do you think? Juan is like, or Maria is like, or And then you start to get these stories, and the children intuitively started to humanize them. So we all know that it's easier to get children to break bad habits than adults, but it was also really interesting and something I've noticed in adults too. For instance, when you get right wing nationalists from the sticks and you bring them into the city, they start to, their views start to change a little bit. They may
Mm-hmm.
still be conservative, but they're not as willing to be violent. So yeah, it's we have a lot of research on this, and it's really fun that our own government is just ignoring all of it for profit.
Yeah, that's a whole conversation in and of itself. So the government is actively shutting down all of our scientific endeavors, which is like literally just everybody's losing their jobs left and right. That's what it looks like. I don't know, all the programs are going away. And at the same time, you're right. They don't use the research that we have. But look, I know you haven't seen this. I just saw this today. I had a total different conversation planned, but that's okay.
Sorry.
So we can jump into this, and then yeah, we can talk. All right, let's get this. Yeah, there we go. That makes a lot more sense. And we'll do that for chats.
Today, there is growing attention on the Sheriff's Department in Jacksonville, Florida, over a viral video of a violent traffic stop involving a black driver. The cell phone footage is from February, but it was just posted this past weekend. And then the body camera videos were released yesterday. Officers say they pulled over 22-year-old William McLeod for not wearing a seatbelt and not turning on his headlights during inclement weather. After McLeod said his window was broken and an officer.
All right, hang on. I want to pull this back real quick because this is actually going to be really important.
Officers say they pulled over 22-year-old William McLeod for not wearing a seatbelt and not turning on his headlights during inclement weather.
All right.
After McLeod.
So allegedly he's not wearing a seatbelt, and
Which sus.
Yeah, and not turning on his headlights during inclement weather, which actually really seemed to be the thing. But
Right. I mean, I think it's happened. Well, I don't know. It's happened to me. I think it's what happened to a lot of people. Like they don't like it when your lights aren't on and it's either too dark or too rainy.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's weird about this is because it's questionable whether or not it was actually raining, and it's not dark.
Yeah,
but
right.
But yeah, I think a lot of that is
what state is this?
Florida.
Oh, okay. I think we're all thinking the same thing.
Yeah, it's sad. I don't know. It's I don't know why I'm laughing. It's terrible.
Said his window after that. McLeod said his window was broken and an officer told him 4 times to open the door and exit or he'd shatter the glass.
Oh.
There's no rain.
It doesn't matter. You're still required to have headlights on.
Can you pull that law up?
Huh?
Can you pull that law up?
Yeah, when you step out of the car, I will.
Can you call your supervisor?
Huh?
Can you call your supervisor?
All right, go for it.
Exit the vehicle now! Exit the vehicle! Show me your hands.
Here.
I'm here. What is your reason, sir? Step out. What is your reason?
Step out now.
All right. No, don't.
The officers involved are not being criminally charged, but the officer who smashed the window and punched him is suspended pending an internal review. NBC's Aaron Gilchrist is following this story for us, also with.
That's a great question, actually.
He bitch slapped him and then punched him.
He kind of. He used his fist both times. The first one just looked a little like awkward, I guess, probably because he's punching him like, and he's in the car or whatever, and he's outside the car. I don't know. It's not a great punching position, I guess. And then when he was out of the car, he definitely.
He had a better
again.
shot and still kind of bitch smacked him. But whatever.
yeah. Truth be told, so the thing that is so interesting about what happens here to me is there is a way in which he kind of seems like he's catching a bad attitude, right? But there's a way in which people don't understand that he's kind of having a here we go again moment, right? And he's trying to get it all, I guess, captured or whatever he thinks is going to happen, right?
Mhm.
And I think there's a way we don't recognize that people might put on a certain facade, but it's really a fear response. And even though people are saying the whole, he should have just complied or whatever, of course, that is a right-wing narrative that I think is crazy, because people don't often recognize the sort of racist roots of
Right.
just saying things like that. But you have to understand that there's already an escalation. If he had what I call the complexion for the protection, who did I get that from? But you would understand that, like, they would probably be going off too, right? Because first off, okay, you pull me over for what now? Seatbelt, maybe. Oh, I didn't have your headlights on during the weather. Okay, fine, but then why are you telling me to get out of the car? Like,
Right.
this is like not even a speeding ticket. Like, what do you mean
Right.
get out of the car? So now, of course, I'm already scared, because I don't even understand why we're at get out of the car if this is some issue over my headlights. And so now you're telling me I'm resisting arrest, but I'm only resisting arrest because
Why am I
arrest doesn't
arrested?
make sense right
Why am I
now.
arrested? Yeah. And which is kind of crazy now that the Supreme Court said that they don't have to read their Miranda rights. Like, how does one even know when, like, why am I being detained? I don't understand this. And I don't know. So I'm Gen X, right? And being raised in the Midwest, it was, you comply. You just do comply. You know that the cops are looking for you, and it's just like, what do you want? Like, it's raining. Really? Is that what we're going with? Like, can I just put myself in the back of the car and we'll sort this out at the police station? Because I mean, we both know where this is going. I don't know. I kind of want to know more about what led to the stop, because it looks like a driving while black, and I've seen that a lot of times too.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I want it. Give me a second. There's something else I gotta show y'all,
Okay.
but I didn't prepare properly.
No, I'm sorry. I started talking and you didn't get to
No,
finish.
no. You're good. Actually, you can
No, but
go
that was
ahead.
brutal. And I honestly, I was prepared to see the window break, based on both actions. I really wasn't ready to see him start smacking him around like that. Even for a Black American, seems excessive.
Yeah. All right. So this is what I want to say. We're going to talk about two Americas.
Oh God.
So I'm going to just say this is what it looks like, and then I'll explain.
Today, we're doing things a little bit backwards. Get it? Because the truck's not the right direction anymore? Because it drives that way now instead of that way? You'll get it. Play the clip. Guys,
So this is some random video that YouTube showed me. I don't know why YouTube, the algorithm, y'all. I think YouTube knows who my friends are and then sends me their stuff. So usually when I get weird stuff, I'm trying to figure out who it is in my friend group that is responsible for this thing popping up with my algorithm. Like when I get crow videos, I'm like, that's Sumami. I already know Sumami's responsible for this because nobody else in my life is obsessed with crows. All right. So the reason I showed this is because for this just normal white guy, this sounds like a fun activity. I'm going to literally re-engineer a truck so that it drives backwards.
Mm-hmm.
Just so that when people see me driving this truck on open roads in the wrong direction, everybody gets a good kick out of it.
No, they get freaked out and you're causing accidents. I don't understand how there's any other way to take that.
But this is what it's like when you have the complexion for the protection, is doing things that are literally to taunt the police. It's just considered harmless fun. And come on, man, we built it. And if you watch the video, like, they actually go around and the whole time they're laughing about how much they're just driving right past police and like not getting attention. So that's what I want people to understand is, like, first off, we're just dealing in like two different worlds, where in one world you got to really be worried about not having your seatbelt on and having your headlights on when it might be foggy, I guess. Versus another when you're like, hey man, I'm bored. You want to just pretend we're driving a vehicle backward on the highway to see if we can fuck with the police?
Seriously.
And everything's fine. Okay.
Yeah. Say, haha, we got the police good. Or like Bree has a video. She hasn't shown it in a while, but it's these two little ladies, and they decided that they wanted to fly a spaceship. So they rigged their car so that it's like in the circle like a spaceship. It's way too large for the road. It should not be on a highway, yet it is. They get pulled over by the police. He says, you made me laugh, but get off the road. And they're gone. I don't, they didn't punch grandma in the face. They didn't, I don't even think, like, she gave him, maybe they edited out the part where she gave him her real driver's license, but the license she gave said that I'm an alien from outer, like, it said, alien name. Wow. And like, the address was outer space. And it was just nuts. And then there's this guy who may or may not have been driving without headlights in the sun.
Yeah, so that's the difference. And then even the thing, like, he asks about, I guess, what law he violated, and they're like, yeah, we'll talk about that, after I arrest you. Yeah. And then he asked for the supervisor to show up, which to me is like I'd like to speak to the manager. And again, rather than getting to speak to the manager, it escalated to me the power struggle. And it was like, how dare you ask to speak to my supervisor? Like, I'd rather assault you.
Yeah, or even question why I'm interrupting your day. You're not allowed to know why I'm inconveniencing you. I'm a cop. Just comply. It's insane to me.
So to me, it does feel like a trap, because we know police are more likely to escalate with a certain demographic. When you're that demographic and you find yourself in what feels like an unnecessary escalation, yeah, they want compliance, but these are scary people who we're afraid of. And I think most people don't realize that like, if you're not black, a lot of times you feel safer where there's a lot of police. But a lot of times if you're black, you are primarily afraid of police. That is is like the number one scary thing in the.
Yeah, and God forbid one of them is having a bad day. The rest are just going to fall in line, and I mean, it oh my God, it just so freaking infuriating. And it reminds me of that study. God, I wish I had known we were doing this. I would have looked it up, where they looked at patterns of police pulling people over, and it, during the day it was, like insanely black, like heavily skewed black, but after dark, they were pulling white and black people over in equal amounts, and it changed. So like at 5 o'clock in July, police are pulling over black people. 5 o'clock in December, white people and black people equally. So you can't say that this isn't systemic.
Yeah, and a lot of times they're pulling us over evenly in places. That is not a reflection of the population here.
Yeah.
Which is also always a question, right? Because when you're in a situation like this, you're always like, where was he stopped, and like, what are the demographics of that? And that's a huge problem, especially because sometimes you get above the local level, where you get to the county sheriff's office, the state police, and stuff like that. There's even a greater disconnect with particular communities because they're not necessarily local departments even.
Yeah,
so all of that
we
gets to be
ran into that
interesting.
with Ahmaud Arbery, and even my family in Georgia was like, yeah, that's horrible, but he should have known not to go jogging in that area. Like, guys, come on.
Yeah, that's I remember that now. Yeah, there's just always these frightening stories, and it feels like a cycle. I was thinking earlier when I was hearing about this, like, oh, I know people are gonna be outraged by this. They did a George Floyd, and they got a Black Lives Matter t-shirt, and like, well, what's this they're hearing? Police are still assaulting black people at random traffic stops. And it's like, this is unfortunately it feels like the reality that will never end. And almost too, like, I always feel like people are more pissed off that we have to draw attention to the issues black people face, because they really would just rather be doing anything else. And even it feels like with like people are outraged about Epstein and ICE, it's like ICE at least feels like they have to wear masks because y'all get kind of mad when they snatch these people up. When they pull black people out of their cars, like, they don't even have to bother with none of that. They got their whole badge on with their name on it and everything. Like, they can do it with their whole chest.
Like, hey, Paul, is your camera on? Watch this one.
Yeah.
Yes, though. Like, especially when you look at George Floyd. I mean, she is videotaping him. He's smiling at the camera, and everybody's just watching. Like, it's an old-fashioned lynching.
Yeah. Horrific. And this is another one where I don't understand how those other officers aren't suspended. I don't understand how we've created the expectation of when police brutality happens, there's no responsibility for the other officers to do anything about it. What that man needed was protection from the police, and what he got from the other police was participation in his violation, which again is why there's the systematic fear of the police for black men and black people to begin with, which is why he's not feeling you when you're talking about please exit the vehicle, sir. You had your headlights on in the fog. What are we doing here? Like, hell to the no. But then he winds up getting his ass whooped anyway, because it almost felt inescapable, basically.
I think I don't know. I think it might have gone differently if he didn't have a camera on. But I don't know.
Who knows?
It's
Who
just, I mean,
knows?
he wasn't escalating. The cop was escalating, and that, we all know why we're here, but it's maddening that we're here.
PC, this is crazy. So PC said the largest ever study of alleged racial profiling during traffic stops has found that blacks who are pulled over more frequently than whites by day are much less likely to be stopped after sunset.
That's the study I was talking about.
Now, she pulled
remember
it.
I said I wish I had found it. Like, I wish I knew we were talking about this so I could have pulled it. She found it and pulled it. So
okay, so that's awesome, PC. Thank you so much. When I was younger, and I guess still now, even I haven't thought about it as much, but I remember preferring to take road trips at night.
Yeah.
For that reason, I was literally just, it was just so obvious to me. It was like, yes, let's.
Yeah.
And I would tell people sometimes. There were so many things. I don't know. Some of them maybe I've mentioned, but like there are so many things that were just adaptations to this sort of reality. So that was one of them. And I would tell people like, I travel at night because it's harder to racially profile me. And people would laugh, but I'm serious. And then the other thing is I would never let cops ride behind me. Like if a cop got behind me, he must have had already figured out how he was going to pull me over for whatever law already violated, because you're not about to ride behind me. So what I'll do is like if I'm ever at a light or whatever it is and a cop pulls up behind me, I'm turning. I'm either looking for, what's the next street? And I'm going to just literally turn my blinker on and pretend to have, that's the street I was going down. Yep. And if I don't see a street coming up, I'm pulling into a gas station, a place of business, a donut shop. It really doesn't matter what it is. And and I'm just parking like it's hot, like Snoop Dogg. Like that wasn't a joke. That was instructions.
No, I don't know a black man that doesn't do that. Like to this day, honestly, it's like, why are you behind me? What do you want? Like because they will. They'll just like, and I've seen people who don't pull over. They'll just follow you. They're bored. They literally have nothing better to do, and they'll follow you to fuck with you.
Yeah, plus they start running your plates and they start, they just start poking around. Yeah. So, typically, you just don't want to deal with those things. Right. It's just so much pressure. All right, this gets interesting. So we'll see the other response. But yeah, also I just wanted to mention them other police. Like that's just so terrifying that they sat back and watched and participated in that. And then you see the black cops, and I hate to say this, but so many of our black cops, they are the worst. Oh, they're the worst.
But again, we've seen what happens to cops that do step in. They don't keep their jobs. None of them.
They don't, which is that's a problem in and of itself. But it is sad that it's like, I think people instinctively think, maybe you get some kind of more sympathetic treatment there, but typically not, because that brother's got to work so hard to
just keep up.
He's blue before he's black, and he will tell you as much.
It's a game.
Yeah.
With me is Paul Butler, an MSNBC legal analyst and former federal prosecutor. Aaron, Jacksonville sheriff has released that body cam footage that he says provides context for the encounter. So walk us through it, would you?
So, Chris, we now have 4 different angles on this incident. The first video we saw over the weekend, the cell phone video from inside the car. Now the sheriff's office has released 3 pieces of body cam video. The piece that you played was from the second officer who arrived on the scene. The officer you saw on the driver's side of the car is Officer Bowers, who was the first officer. And in his body cam video, you see him in his cruiser pulling up behind Mr. McLeod and then getting out, approaching Mr. McLeod's car, at which point he opens the car door and leans out. He says that his window is broken. That's why he's opened the door. And when the officer tells him to get out of the vehicle because he's being pulled over for not having his headlights on during inclement weather, which the law says you have to do in Florida and other places around the country for that matter. And then the interaction escalates after Mr. McLeod shuts the car door, where he's told over and over again, at least 7 times, to get out of the vehicle. And then at this point, after talking with that second officer, you see the window being broken there. The punch happens that we see on the cell phone video. I want you to see a little bit of the body camera video that we've edited just so you can see the progression in the interaction here. Watch this.
Sir, this is your last warning to open the vehicle and exit before we're going to break the window. No, he's under arrest. Open the door and exit. You are under arrest for resisting.
He talking about arresting me and stuff, bro. I didn't do nothing.
It's called resisting, idiot.
Okay,
Mr. McLeod
that
also indicates that
was very chilling to me. It's called resisting idiot. I know it probably, to some people, it feels minor, but whose job is it that allows you to talk to people that way? And it just gave me that boy vibe.
Yeah.
Like, especially when you've just roughed somebody up and assaulted them, like, it's just like a thing. But like, I don't know, you're supposed to be a public servant. Like, who can speak to people that way on the job?
Their job is to maintain the status quo.
Yeah, I just, oof.
And
you just don't put hands all over me. Now you're gonna talk to me like this.
My issue is like, okay, you can only, he's being arrested for his resisting arrest. Like, that's the arrest. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It can't be the only charge.
I don't.
There has to be a reason to arrest for you to resist.
Yes, correct. That's the part that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, like he says, I need you to get out of the car. And he's like, no, he's arrested for what? Like at this point, he's finding out he's arrested for what? You're resisting arrest. Why am I arrested for resisting arrest?
But see, I think that is the whole thing about just comply and all of that, because to me, what it creates is a situation where police know that's their get out of jail for, he was resisting, because they already know people are gonna get behind that narrative, and so they can then treat it like a blanket pardon to whoop on people. They were resisting.
Yeah, and the thing is, we do things just instinctively to preserve ourselves. So like we're going to move our hands in front of us, or do certain things like when we feel like our eyes or our bodies are being put into peril. And so, but that act in and of itself is resisting. Or like when you're uncomfortable, like you just instinctively move, but that is resisting. Like you're not allowed to do anything but just like be limp if you're not resisting. And even still, I've seen videos where it's like, oh, he went limp, he's resisting. It's like,
right.
He should be walking and moving easily with us. It's like we can't win for losing. It's insane.
And the young man says as much. He says, you were talking about arresting me. He's like, I didn't do anything. So he's saying right there, I'm trying to understand how when you got to me. What were you on about that I was supposed to get out of the car and understand that I'm being arrested, which is again why he asked him what the charge was, and also why he asked to speak to the supervisor, because he doesn't understand why he's under arrest if he didn't have his seatbelt. I'm just assuming the worst. He didn't have his seatbelt on and his headlights were off, and it's in the middle of a damn thunderstorm or whatever. You know, and again, this is where I just want to be explicit. If this is a white person, not only are they asking the same questions and doing the same thing, they're gonna be cursing the cop out and give me your badge number and who the hell do you think you are, and they're gonna be going off on the cop and still not expecting nor would they receive the type of brutality of having the window smashed, getting punched in the face, getting, you know, dragged out of the car and hit again, and having all the police. You know, if this happened to a Caucasian person, they would be outraged. The people would be in the streets in outrage. It would be it would be back to the police being too much and out of control and all of this. But when it happens to one of us, it's just,
oh, look, he was resisting.
Complied. Oh yeah. Oh, look, he was resisting. So and again, that's what's so scary about it, because when I'm seeing it, I'm recognizing the fear and recognizing the sort of lose-lose scenario of you're already in fear, you already are confused, you don't understand what these men intend to do to you, you don't know what is going to happen to you if you step outside that car. As weird as it is, instinctively that is your sort of last beacon of shelter from these people, and you don't understand the reason for you to have to get out of it, and then just you asking questions or trying to get the proper authority here creates so much hatred, it felt like, and anger towards you, that you end up brutalized anyway.
Yeah, and I want to point out, not that I'm not listening to you, but I saw, do you guys not think race is a social construct? And I'm like, what is going on in the side chat? And so I like Titan's comment that I'm pretty sure the panel is aware that race is a social construct, pointing out that there's no biological basis, doesn't eliminate racism. And that's completely true. And it goes deeper than that. We're socially trained to fear dark skin. There's not like a thought like, oh, black, like I'm sure there is with races, but like with normal people, it's not like, oh, black bad, white good. It's like your whole everything, from what the media that you grew up with to the way you watched people act around, like your mother or, your father react when in the company of people of a certain color. Other people, the way other people behave forms the way we behave initially. And if that's not caught and checked, we fall into the same patterns. We do this with almost everything. And so, I mean, money is a social construct. I'm very much aware of that. It doesn't change the fact that, we still act in certain ways when we interact with social constructs. And to change the dynamic large scale really is something that needs to come from top down.
Yeah, I understand where people come from. I was trained by sociologists of race. So, you know, that was important to understanding. And there is a certain optimism there where that's trying to say, hey, we're all one species, we're all one group, right? But you have to understand that there's a lot of privilege that comes with that, because that is an academic take on it, right? That is very divorced from the lived experience. And you can't show up to Black communities or even other communities of color and be like, hey guys, it's all good, I figured out race isn't real. And that's kind of where it comes off to people, kinds of, hey, if we'd all just realize race is actually a social construct, we could like wave a magic wand and racism will go away. And it's like, that's a totally different conversation that is divorced from the conversation about what it is like to live a racialized life in I hate to say it, a racialized world. America, especially for people of our age, generation, or whatever, everything was about race from day one until right now, until forever, right? Growing up, everything was being so different because you were Black, or being treated a certain type of way, or expected to behave a certain type of way. And everything that happened was racially charged, right? Like, if somebody cut you off, it was this Chinese lady cut me off, this Black guy, you know, like whatever it was, like, and the way people voted, who they became friends with. If somebody you knew was in an interracial relationship, that'd be like the first thing you said about them. We just had this, like it's crazy, but like, this is America. Like, low key, like everything has been always about race, and then you tie it all the way through to right now. Why Black people sitting here looking at y'all like this? Because what's happening? Everybody wanted to look the other way at Mr. White Supremacist, give him a second term. He goes bonkers on the whole world, and we're sitting here like, no, there was a way out. We gave you a way out. Just like always, the Black woman was the way out, but y'all didn't want to do that. Okay, so that's the same thing. Like, yes, race is a social construct, but race is also the reason Donald Trump is president right now and Kamala Harris isn't. And that is reality. So, you know what I mean? We just got to understand the academic discussion about its roots or origins versus the lived history that we all experience, right? Because when we talk about racism, anti-Blackness is the heart of all of it. Even the other groups that y'all hate because of their color hate us. Think about that.
No, it's bad because America, to bolster our sense of America exceptionalism, we marketed Hollywood to other countries. And so now other countries have this very negative stereotype of Black people because of the way we've been portrayed in the media. And then to say, well, if you don't like it, go somewhere else. It's like, well, you've already poisoned the well everywhere. And then you're saying, well, we don't want to change. Well, what do you expect us to do? It's insane. I don't subscribe to that. I think that if you love something, you try to make it its best version of itself. Whether we do this with ourselves, we do this with our children, we do this with our jobs, we do it with our country. But that being said, it's also a little annoying that I don't know, races keep popping up in the side chat, one, but for two, when we're talking about God, you said something, and then somebody said something that kind of threw me, and now I'm trying to walk it back around to what you said, and I'm forgetting.
I'm in such a weird place. I see what's going on in the side chat. I just don't have the energy. Like if you're like, I don't see the intersection between like race and how Trump got elected and all this.
Yeah,
I'm like, cool.
If Harris was president, we would be screwed.
Cool.
That is, no, it's just sheer sexism. And everybody keeps saying it's race. There's nobody alive today that doesn't believe that there's some racists that don't believe Obama would have won against Trump. But we all know Obama would have won against Trump. This is not about race. And it's not about our goddamn policies.
That's a good point.
It's not about our goddamn policies because, what do you call it? Joe Biden slept his way through the 2020 election. His campaign strategy was to hide in the basement because I might die of COVID. Joe Biden looked Black people in the eye during his campaign and said, if you vote for Trump, you ain't Black. Kamala had a very bad campaign. It was not as bad as Joe Biden's. And he won. And I don't want to hear any bullshit about, oh, well, COVID. Oh, well, people were tired of Trump. She ran against the same guy. I don't want to hear it's not about a Black woman running. We live in a racist, sexist country. We can't have a woman because it doesn't matter what the Dems did. And there's a lot of things like, he couldn't erase student loans, but he got student loans down. A lot of people did get their student loans erased. And a lot of people, went from like $1,200 payments to $200 payments. Before Joe Biden was in office, we couldn't get a refund on our airplane tickets. We couldn't. You had to You had to use it on another flight, maybe. If you want, you had to plan a different trip that you weren't even planning. Yeah. It's just we're gonna keep your money. You can just take a different flight, maybe, if we have room for you, because we're still gonna overbook. Before Joe Biden was in office, NSF fees were off the fucking chain. There's just so much stuff. Like I could just go, on and on and on. And whenever he passed the Build Back Better Act, which isn't going to get enacted because Trump is in charge. And we look like a bunch of ungrateful bastards. We just threw all that plus a lot of stuff out because we didn't want a Black woman. What they haven't learned to take a more populist stance. They have not. They have learned to not run a woman in the foreseeable future. We played ourselves.
That's my thing is the cutting off your nose to spite your face. The way that everybody's material conditions, your life would be better. The things people are so upset about. We weren't talking about tariffs. We weren't talking about, we were talking about banning price gouging. Everybody is now crying about the price of everything. Y'all told us y'all were voting for Trump's policies. We asked you what policies. Y'all told us immigration. Now we're getting the mass deportation he promised, and you're telling us you didn't vote for this. And I'm calling you a liar to your face. And that's my point, is that it's just, that is what it is. We've always seen it through that lens. And I would say with Kamala, she got hit with both of them things, that racism and that sexism. Very hard from day one. And so we gotta kill, to me, the goal of the colorblind society and all of this stuff. I need you to see race. I need you to see it in its all its pernicious inclinations, because you have to understand that until you do, a lot of what we put out on the table in the social construct is meaningless. For instance, there's an essential role police are supposed to play in society. When you see it through the lens of the people who are brutalized by police, largely disproportionately because of their race. That's not possible. That's what you're seeing in this situation right here. This person does not feel that they can at once trust police to enforce the law in a fair and, you know, just fashion, and at the same time they cannot trust the police to protect them. They live
Police
in
are
a
not there to protect.
that's what I'm, but see, but that's what I'm saying. So then that whole protect and serve ethos, having it written on your side of like a car and all of that is out the window. And if you're, you know, if you're colorblind or you're liberal and you don't want to deal with it or whatever, you're not helping because you're not seeing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a really sad situation, and I wish there would be a bigger conversation about the fear, because I think for so many people, one, it's hard to see men with a certain vulnerability, and then particularly Black men, and then some of that is our own toxic programming, right? That doesn't allow us to communicate or to express vulnerability and fear because it's not socially accepted. But, you know, I wish he found a way to have the conversation of, officer, I'm just really scared right now. I don't understand why you're asking me to get out of the car. I don't understand why this, and I'm really scared, and can y'all help me understand what's happening right now? Not that you should have to have that type of conversation, but my point is, when you're really in the moment, it's so hard to find the words.
Yeah.
And then we don't have the tools for it. So then people see us as a threat and they don't recognize, I'm not trying to be threatening. I'm scared for my life. And we're not talking about how I may be a Black man, but I still have human emotions. I'm still afraid of scary men with guns outside my car. I'm still nervous when I get pulled over. I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. That's the part that scares me, is nobody talks about what he was feeling, what he was dealing with emotionally. Sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I hear that, and I like a lot of it, you know, goes back to our demonizing the term toxic masculinity, and then not talking about what it really is, not allowing men to have those feelings, those emotions, so that they can verbalize themselves, taking out of the culture the need to, that only happiness and rage or stoicism are the only emotions a man is allowed to have, so that, you know, you can come to a place emotionally where you can find those words. Because right now, like, okay, if a man gets mad, you know, because he feels like he's being, I don't know, condescended, or like his manhood is in question. You know, it's like you're what's the word I'm looking for? Being disrespected.
Right.
How do I tactfully get my point across? How do I, you know, how do I verbalize that? And we don't give men options to do that without questioning their manhood. And then it's this catch-22 where it's like, oh, you don't get the words, so you can only rage. And then now you rage. Oh, see, all you are is, you know, angry monkey, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever the media needs you to be for this moment. I really wish we could get away from the us versus them, so that we could have honest conversations about how to navigate through society together.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to have those conversations and articulate the difference. So one thing that came up in the chat that I think is a critical thing is, what racism robs us of is our ability to be unique individuals. It's not that when things happen to me as Jason, I want to play the race card. It's that as a Black man, race has dominated my everyday reality to the point that when things happen to me, I don't know the extent to that they just happened to Jason versus the extent of they happened to me differently than they would have happened to somebody else that was in a Black body. And I remember, it's so deep. I remember growing up and just even in my social life with girls and whatever else, having to deal with the consequences of race, especially being like the only Black guy, like, and literally articulating that then that I wanted to know what it was like for either a girl I was involved with or her family or whatever, for it to not work out because they didn't like my unique personality, because somebody didn't like me, because somebody thought I was a jerk or too whatever, right? Because again, everything was so dominated by race. The reason your dad didn't want you dating me was because I was Black. The reason your older brother was threatening to beat me up every day was because I was Black, right? The reason you couldn't go to the dance with me was because I was Black. So it's not that I literally was hungry to know what it was like for somebody to just not like me. So, like, trust us when I say, like, we want that too. We want to live in a world where things just happen to us because of the unique circumstances that we find ourselves in, but we'll never know. And that's and I could tell you, being a woman adds that whole other layer, and you never know why when somebody says or does something weird to you, why it is.
No, yeah. For me especially, it's really hard to tease out if it's sexism or racism. I usually have to kind of tease out, like, well, what's the experience of the Black man versus the white woman to kind of see where I fit in here. And it's weird. Like, I have to study this shit just to navigate my own world, because I know how to deal with racists. I know how to deal with misogynists, but it's different. So I have to know which one you are to be able to navigate that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, it makes for an interesting world. And it's daily. Oh my God, it's daily. I like being in Baltimore and DC because, it's predominantly Black, and, people of every color understand that you get to stand on your own merit. It's not like, where it came from, where I was getting ridiculed by Black people by not conforming.
Yeah. And it's interesting too that you have to sort of find those pockets of the country or of where it's like that, and then it comes with its own issues. But there is a certain safety there.
Yeah, but it's weird even because it was just so old hat to me that, when I wanted to move, I'd have to research, right? And it's not like, oh, what's the job market like? What's to do that too, right? But it's also like, okay, in this job market, how many Black people are applying to management jobs? Because that's gonna mess me up. And when my ex-husband was white, and he was like, well, why don't we just move to Montana? And I'm like, do you see me? And for me, it was just such an obvious question why we couldn't move to Montana. Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But we actually, this wasn't a one night conversation. Like, I really had to walk him through racism.
Wow.
And for me, it's just like, you're white. Like, what would you do if you were in Montana and you saw, and he just, I don't know. He didn't grow up where I grew up, so I couldn't. Usually when I'm trying to explain stuff to my white friends, I know them and I can tap into some sense of them or people they know to be able to like make that leap.
Right.
And he just wasn't there. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, it's stressful, and we do see, a lot more illnesses in older Black communities, and it's not just poor diet. It's from a lifetime of stress, which we know has negative effects on the body. No police regulation and
training. It said police regulation and training should be the only concern when it comes to police brutality, not telling people who get targeted to behave. Yeah.
Yeah, this is how you interact with the policemen when you come into contact with it.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's wild when you do see the instances of it happening to white people. It's just so much rarer, but it sparks so much more outrage. I'm even just reminded of this congresswoman who was arrested recently, this white congresswoman. Mm-hmm. She cursed them police up and down, but they were still so like gentle with her. Mm-hmm. And it's just it feels like we live in a world where people know it is not okay for this to happen to not Black bodies, and people accept it happening to Black bodies, and then we're all doing some weird song and dance to try to explain it, when it really is just what our eyes see. It really is like, doesn't seem like there was much more there than a seatbelt thing or a headlight thing. And this young man ended up brutalized over something that honestly, I feel like a lot of police would walk away from, or it's like hey, did you realize your headlight's not on, when it's foggy like this? I know it may not be raining heavily, but even when it's foggy like this, the state law says you should turn. I actually sat on the steering committee for the police department for the city of Newark, and the police department's leadership had this whole conversation with community leaders and also the leaders of the police force, that a huge part of their training was about focusing on teachable moments, shifting from, hey, we've got to give a citation or make an arrest. And a lot of times we really just can have a conversation with people, because there are so many times where people don't realize what the law is, or that the law's changed or whatever. And who cares? Most cops, do you even really want to show up to court to be the witness for somebody coming to court over a seatbelt and a headlight thing? Like, most cops don't even want to, alter their day enough to go through with something like that, right? So that's a situation where that's what it should have been. Hey, by the way, you need to have your headlights on. I'm not sure if you had your seatbelt on. I'm not going to write you a ticket today, but be careful out here. and keep it pushing.
That's generally the way that it goes for me whenever I get pulled over in the rain. Cops just like, hey, did you know that? Well, because they can tell like how many times you've been pulled over too.
Yes.
So unless it's like the fifth time that week that, I'd been told, or even that year that I've been told to drive with the headlights on in the rain, like they usually just give us a pass. But yeah, it's just, I've never been asked to get out of my car. Like, I roll the window down, I give them my license and registration, they walk away, they come back, they say, you turn your lights on and be careful. I even asked the cop once, I'm like, oh my God, I can't remember what I said, but he was like, sometimes when people steal cars, the lights won't come on.
Oh,
So
that's how it might be stolen.
yeah, that was a cop in back in the Midwest that said that to me. So I don't know. Maybe I mean it's plausible because, and especially back in the late 90s, early 2000s, the way you had to break into cars is a little different than today. But it definitely could have done something that could have triggered a wire, and then all of a sudden you don't have control over whether or not the lights are on. But I don't know, like for all of this, I'm like, did he give? I didn't really see it. I'm like, did he give his license and registration? Why was all the rest of this necessary?
Yeah, yeah, I definitely wonder about those things too. Although I'm always scared that all of those things steer us in the wrong direction because they get us to question people instead of like, I don't know, like I saw an assault and I saw a victim, right? And just like if I, you know, a young lady came to me or something and was the victim of domestic violence, I would be very careful about what questions I asked or what details I was interested in even finding out, right? Because so much of it would be, you know, it's really none of my business. All I know is it shouldn't have happened to you, right?
I saw a cop escalating the situation, which ostensibly shouldn't happen.
Yes, right, yeah, right. And then we saw the violence and all of that. Yeah.
And
so,
even at my
yeah.
job, this is a cop, like they are trained to de-escalate. Like that is part of their training. And at my job, we don't give our managers, it's healthcare, they don't get de-escalation training. Perhaps they should, I don't know. But when a manager is interacting with staff and they are seen to be escalating, the manager gets in trouble. And, you know, the employee is told to go walk it off, you know, and then the manager gets pulled to my office. Like they're not allowed to raise their voice at employees or workers.
Right.
So like,
Which again, you have him asking for the supervisor. Like, what else is he supposed to do? Because again, he senses that same escalation and is trying to, you know, he's not saying, hey, let me go scot-free or whatever. He's literally saying, hey man, can I get a supervisor in here? Because I'm confused. This isn't adding up to me. And yeah, I just want to be clear, like I'm not trying to throw anybody under the bus. It's literally my own questioning. I'm asking myself, oh, if I'm asking, well, did he really have his seatbelt off? Or and then again, it's a balance, right? Because some of it is we need to know the details, not just in the sense of to get the context of what happened, but also to understand how these things work. Like, for instance, when you told me like your story, like a lot of times I think about, well, part of the way the systematic racism in police enforcement has worked is pulling us over for ostensibly legitimate reasons that are just not applied evenly, you know? So if you're pulling me over because not having my headlights on is indicative of my car might be stolen, are you pulling everybody over at the same rate every time they don't have their headlights on? Or is it when you find yourself maybe making a stop you shouldn't have made, it's you have that as one of your list of go-to things, and I'm not so we don't know, right? So that's part of the reason we do want to know the details, because we got to see how these things actually work and how they play out.
Right.
But then what I don't want to be is that situation where I'm like, well, did you have your seatbelt off, or should you have said this, or did they have a legitimate reason to want to arrest you? So then you were resisting. Well, then maybe when even under the worst of situations, that should not have happened like that, right? Yes,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, and it. I don't know why I can't think straight today.
It's Monday. Got a
It
bad case of the Mondays.
Yeah, so I've been a lot of brain drain because I've been doing payroll all day, and so which takes a lot of attention and a lot of just I don't know. But I do want to thank the trolls for coming in, and please hit the like button or the dislike button. Also, if you don't like it, tell us why in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And thanks for the view.
Yeah, I don't like it. I the reason I wanted to have the conversation today was because the fear thing just really hit me. And it struck me as a thing that doesn't get talked about, because we do rush at even on the positive side, when we rush to hold the police accountable and it's cool, but it is a different tone than I think we use in other instances of coercion or violence or assault. And I do think a lot of it has to do with how we see victims. We see certain people as more vulnerable than we see other people. But to me, like I said earlier, that's the beginning of dehumanization, especially as a Black man who's trying, as I grow older, to become more self-aware, more in touch with my feelings. It's scary to think about how others might not be able to perceive the richness of my emotional experience, right? Even I was thinking about something funny. So I was talking about how I want people to dislike me. One of the things I really like about our community is there's people who don't like me, and they really don't like me, but they have legitimate reasons not like me. They don't like me because of my social stances or political stances, or the way I've gone off on people, or the way I've handled certain situations, or they're not into the routine, they're not into the game. There's legitimate, they just don't like me. And I'm like, good, that's cool. I earned that. You know what I mean? I earned that. So I'm fine with that. But you can even think a part of that is a lot of times where people see as aggression or just flying off the handle at somebody sometimes is a reflection of pain. It's a reflection of trauma. It's a reflection of fear. It's a defensive response when you feel vulnerable. But if you don't understand that, you will never recognize that vulnerability, but you will recognize that aggression, and that aggression will make you act a certain way, right? And then it's a whole thing. And that's kind of what I recognize, because I did recognize he was at first oh, here we go. He had a certain kind of attitude because he wasn't here for the police nonsense today. And then it went from 0 to 90 way faster than he ever could have imagined. And next thing he knows, he's wait, hold on, oh God, no, and now he's fearing for his life.
Right.
Right. So yeah, that was
you're
crazy.
Going to act in ways that can be perceived, as threatening, I guess, when you're just trying to defend yourself. I get to a cop. Right.
Or we say fight, flight, or freeze.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of times when you see people take off.
Right.
And that's used as the justification for aggression or even shooting. Sometimes it's he did a minor thing, but he ran. So then the cops, and you're like, again, fight, flight, or freeze. Somebody's just afraid, they're panicking.
Right.
Flight may happen before they didn't
It's
even
an
process
involuntary-
they
it's
just
involuntary.
got scared and running was what they chose, right? Other times,
and that could be, it's usually not, and it usually, I don't know, for people that the cops pull over, I'm not really sure what the stats are on that, but for someone to physically run from a scary situation, that's usually a lifetime of a learned response, right? Like whether we choose to fight, flee, or freeze.
right.
There's a reason that we have our own personal go-to responses. And it comes from, the totality of your lived experiences brought you here. And it can change, that pattern can change through life.
Yeah.
I know I used to,
Yeah.
I'm more of a fighter now. I'm trying to get that down. I used to freeze.
See, I thought that was what he did, was like an elaborate freeze.
Yeah.
Like it was like he didn't, because fight might be your response. Like you said, being arrested is not an everyday experience. So a lot of people, you don't know how you're going to act in that situation. But if they start snatching you up and throwing your arms behind you or throwing you on the ground, you might physically resist that, again, just instinctually, because again, it feels like you've all of a sudden in a fight.
Yeah.
And it felt like he was scared and he didn't know. So you take out your phone, or you show your hands, or you start asking those questions, right? Like, so there definitely has to be a certain way, where again, this is a situation where our police do need to be trained differently to recognize that they themselves are threatening to people. I don't care whether you're the best, and this is part of the situation, right? Even if you are the best, friendliest, safest cop on the planet, you now have to understand the reality of the histories, the dynamics. You having a badge, you having a gun, you done pulled me over with the sirens and the woo-woo, it's traffic flying by 70 miles an hour, okay? Like, you got to be able to take all of that in and conduct yourself, under pressure in that situation, and not escalate things.
Right. And God, it's so hard to explain, really, because like I'm looking at this comment, it's like this seems off topic for Skeptic Haven. And I think that so we've been doing this for about a year now. And I think these are definitely conversations that need to be had. And there aren't a lot of people of color in the atheist/skeptic community. And I think as a skeptic, you should know that you need to truly understand both sides of an argument, to know what your position is and to be able to argue it best. So I think the Black perspective is a perspective that all skeptics should have, and one that fits in very well in Skeptic Haven.
Yeah, I think it's a good, it's a good question to ask. For me, like, because originally I wanted to talk about, because I went to the Ark Encounter protest in Kentucky, and I know Cam just went to NanoCon. So actually, originally I was gonna do today's show about finding each other in person, and how transformative that is, and like the value of that. And I'm hoping we could still have that conversation with Cam next week. The reason
that'd be a good one for her to be in on, though. Yeah, she's been doing a lot of stuff lately.
The reason I went with this was, one, obviously it's current events. It was in the news. It did, to me, fit into this space, in the sense of, we oftentimes get into left versus right, because so much of that you know, those social things come into play. And this is one of those things where the right has run with it, with their typical, oh, you just should comply and all of that. And so a lot of that is supercharged. So I wanted to respond to that. And then also one of the goals of this show being called Black Free Thinkers is just about humanizing Black people. And you know, that way we can have, because we're fortunate to be in a space that isn't a Black space, you know, this atheist space, the secular space, the, you know, Skeptic Haven's channel and audience is not what we would call like a Black community. So we have a sort of privileged places like Black content creators, people about these things, and they'll actually like hear us out. And so I thought this was an example of in real time how not understanding each other's, the richness of our emotions leads to this type of thing. So it's about how not understanding each other really contributes to that dehumanization, and how afraid he was. So I just wanted to justify that if anybody's wondering.
And it also, again, when we're going back to the beginning of the stream, when we're talking about people, when people understand each other, they come together. And I know that you and I got like bonded, like our friendship got closer when we were like fighting bigots. And you know, it was, you know, you and I on the Black side, and then a couple of our friends in the LGBT community, and we were bonding over our pain, which is insane. And I love that this year, when we were faced with a similar pain, that a lot more people in the community learned from last year and came to our side immediately. And I can't tell you guys what that meant. When I saw Brady say, you know, I almost left the community, I felt that with my heart and soul. It was the support I felt when I spoke up, and I was like, is no one really talking about this? And I got support, and not, you know, well, let sleeping dogs lie, and, you know, you shouldn't do this or da 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 da. It was just, no, this is injustice, and we're going to stand by you. And it's emboldened me to fight for civil rights and injustice, starting, you know, in my own backyard, to fight for the rights of everyone in the community, but also, much like that situation is not only about one group, neither is police brutality. You have to remember that the Trump administration, I think they threw like, I can't remember what it is. It's like maybe 10 billion into new housing, and like 40 billion into like more penitentiaries. They are starting like a thing through, it's going through Gabbard, and she's supposed to partner with every state to clean up homelessness. And so it's not like they want to treat them and put them back on the street, or, you know, get them housed. They're doing away with programs that house the homeless. They want to cage them and force them to work. Around the same time that they are trying to unwind the 14th Amendment. This isn't just about immigrants, the homeless, Black people, white cishet men. They are coming for you if you are not rich. They are trying to dwindle the middle class, which means more people are going to be poor. More people are going to be on the streets. More people are going to be arrested. More people are going to be incarcerated and forced labor for the rich. Like, this is not hyperbole. And I've been saying for a year that this is the game plan, and like I'm seeing it play out right now. Right now. It is insane to me. Everything that I go through will soon come to you. Hold the line at me. hold, or whoever, whether it's Black people, the homeless, immigrants, because it's not about those people. It never was.
Yeah, and Ember told a story earlier of being fearful when she got pulled over because of the brutality of somebody like her. We know the brutality that's foisted upon LGBTQ people, particularly trans people right now. So there's reasonably a lot of fear right there. We are talking about ICE a lot, and the stuff I see ICE do now on an almost daily basis is horrifying. I mean, and some of it, like I said, this young man, I don't know what he should have done, and that's the problem. He was in such a trap. It felt like, how much more of a trap can you get in than people showing up to immigration court with their immigration attorney, having an immigration hearing, and getting snatched up outside the courtroom? So, I mean, but again, the big beautiful bullshit that we just passed is, putting billions of dollars into ICE. They're growing. They're about to be everywhere. They want to build. Yeah. They want to build alligator Alcatrazes all over the place. I was joking. They're going to be flying in alligators to states that they're not even native to, right? But at the same time, we got bathroom bills going through. We got bounties on women's bodies for abortion. So all of these things, Cop City, all of these things are motivating more aggressive law enforcement across the board, more suspicion on a broader range of citizens. And if we normalize it, saying, hey, well, you should have had your lights on in the rainstorm, then what about when they're snatching bodies out of bathrooms because somebody said you shouldn't belong here, or next time they pull you over? Well, we heard reports that they're trafficking women across state lines for abortions, right? And so there's this is what I mean. Like, we can't tolerate a world where this is an acceptable part of somebody's job. I don't care about what you're, I always said this, if you are, I've never felt safer than when I was places where there was no police. Okay. And I mean that sincerely. Like, I was, the safest I've ever felt in my life was I was in Switzerland in a village where there literally were no police. Okay. People need to understand that that's possible. What you also need to think about is you need to think about where you want police presence and why. When I say that, what I mean is you tend to want police presence in the city, and you tend to want police presence where there's all different types of people that have to live together, meaning there's a lot of different misunderstandings and conflict. When you go out into more remote, homogenous communities, when you go into most rural places and even most suburban places in this country, you do not see a lot of police. So I always want to say to people, you ain't got no problem with the police not being around in your neighborhood. Right. So that is just something that's just a reality for me. But at the same time, I'm not under any illusion that police are going anywhere anytime soon. I know that they're a reality of, modern life, but if that's going to be the case, we got to deal with this, y'all, because it can't be okay for them to just be insulting people. It can't be okay for them to just say people are resisting when there's no arrestable offense to begin with, because again, then they can just use that resisting as preemptive whatever to do whatever they want to do. They should not be smashing people's windows over traffic stops. They should not be punching people in the face. I mean, so if that becomes the normal thing, if it's okay to do it because it's just some punk kid or whatever, then what are you going to do when they're doing that to people like you? because it's getting to a point where we're all on that list one way or another.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the goal. That is the goal. And I'm so tired of white men saying, well, they're not coming for me. It's like they are, and you won't see it. The us versus them has always been wealthy versus not. They're coming for us. All they want are free work, free labor. That's the goal. It's always been the goal.
Yeah, so I was in Guarda, Switzerland, and it's a small village up in the Alps. I was there for like a biology conference, and yeah, there's no police department. So you like the whole time I did not see one police officer. And yeah, it just doesn't exist. Like they don't have one. If something were to really happen, they would need they would need emergency services from another village. But you learn very quickly that there's a certain safety there because people have to rely on each other. If somebody's not safe, you just can't live here. Like if you start trouble, like we just gonna have to get rid of you because like everybody has to live in that same environment. So you're not worried about people running up on you. You're not worried about, because it's just not going to happen here. People just not, it just doesn't work.
When you give people the resources they need, like people aren't really inherently evil, right?
Yeah. Yes.
We do what we have to do to survive, which we have criminalized. But if you just give people the things or the means to get the things,
yes,
they stop doing the criminal activities and
absolutely,
and will instead opt for the legal way.
And that's a whole part of this too is and it goes right back to the election. People don't want to do what it takes to support the policies that will materially improve our conditions.
Right.
And that is a problem because you are willing to continue to criminalize the consequences.
Right.
And that's a lot of what people don't see. It's like that, you don't want to see crime waves in our cities, but you don't want to invest in improving the schools. You don't want to increase the minimum wage. You don't want to deal with the housing crisis that we have. You don't want to make people's lives more affordable. What do you expect, right? And it's getting.
They expect. Again, I'm not an anti-theist. But people who think like that honestly think that we're in this situation because we've taken God out of the country.
Yeah.
And
yes.
if we get closer to the Bible, all crime will dissipate and families will, come together and everybody will make money. They're told to believe this. And I've been following a lot of people lately who talk about how they left the right or how they left the Mormon church or, all these or, whatever anal strain of whiteness that they came from. And it's all the same song and dance where, if we just, believe more, things will magically come together. But again, they're not, a lot of it's out of ignorance too, because the places that these people are in don't have the best, actually, they're probably the worst educational. I want to say they were all in the bottom 10 of the 50 for education. And they're not even getting sex ed, much less like the psychology of like, how to make an economy run. So they don't know what it takes. And so somebody comes along and says, yeah, if you just love Jesus, everything will be okay. And you've been told that your entire life. Why wouldn't you believe it?
Yeah. And that's why it's important to normalize, secular thinking.
Yes.
But in the meantime, just just really trying to ask people, but like, what can we do now? What bothers me so much is we could make certain ideas the only ones that were politically acceptable. We could
Mhm.
create a world in which it was like, you'd be weird if you didn't think we should have universal health care. You'd
Mhm.
be weird if you didn't if you didn't think like housing was a human right. But we've sort of accepted a status quo in which not only is it like normal to not support those things, like most of our elected officials don't. And
Mhm.
then when people like say like, hey, I think this is like a good idea, or like this is like basic standard of living stuff, we're treated like the crazy ones. Like, what type of radical communist propaganda have you been listening to, thinking people should go to the hospital for free? What is wrong with you? And you're like,
Right.
like there's this laundry list of places where people never have to worry
Yeah.
about going
Happens
broke
every
over
day.
medical
Yeah.
expense. But there really is a way that we lack the imagination. And I don't know, we go back and forth about what the first step is to getting people to imagine a different future is. But I just wish they do it. I don't care how they get there. I just think our vision sucks.
I mean, we can do it, and we can do it relatively quickly. We just have to want to. We lack the political will. Because I mean, you got to remember, 100 years ago, they were posting lynchings in the paper, and people were dressing their kids up in their Sunday best to go watch them. Probably lynch a man, and there were no slaves 100 years ago. So they just decided in a kangaroo court that this man should be lynched, and they were bringing their children, and they were cheering on the immolation of a human being. And it was great because they were Black. That was 100 years ago. Around the time of the Civil Rights Act, for whatever reason, they got serious about it. And I've heard stories, usually bitching from older people, about how it used to be cool for them to do whatever they wanted to Black people. But then the law came and told them that they couldn't do it anymore. They're mad, very mad about that. And then 20 years later, people were ashamed to call themselves racist. That was the 80s. So from the Civil Rights Act of 1964, so before that, we were lynching people in public. 20 years after that, people were ashamed to publicly call themselves racist.
And now
We
they're
can do
becoming,
this.
yeah, but now we're going back to they're comfortable calling themselves racist almost in public again.
I keep saying it has to be a top-down effort.
Yeah.
We've got to be committed to primarying from the left. And I don't like a lot of the streamers that are denigrating the left for like cancel culture and all this other stuff, but we need to get more in tune with one another. We've got to get on the same page, because for what to have happened to India Walton, Turner, oh hell, there's another girl more recently. But there's actually a lot of progressives that have lost the primary. Cory Bush, is a good example, where like people just push some money in and say, no, they're really bad actually. And people are like, oh, look, somebody on TV said they're bad. That must be true. It's just insane. Like, we've got to be more we're supposed to be committed to truth and justice. We've got to stop being blown over by lies, blatant lies. of people that are in our own district. What is this?
But we don't endorse any candidates here on Skeptic Haven, but it is a fact. It is a fact that the Democratic Party will do whatever it takes to sabotage candidates to the left of the establishment, and that includes supporting MAGA candidates, and it includes what you see with Mamdani, which I think I happen to be a fan of, but regardless of how you feel about him, he is a case study in how much the Democratic Party hates the idea of helping its voters, because he won the primary. So you're supposed to now say the easiest path to victory, the way to spend the least amount of money, is you just get behind the guy and make this an easy deal. But instead, they all refuse to endorse him. Now they're going to back these actual sex pests that are running as independents. I mean, this is really an open display of animosity toward your voters base. This is I hate the idea of someone who wants to actually help you winning so badly. We will throw the kitchen sink at it, and it's terrible. So to your point, people have got to, and that's why it's important that it doesn't work. And then it's important that this starts a windfall of primarying to the left. Yeah, and
I thank you. You didn't let me forget about that time when they backed a Republican so that a progressive wouldn't walk into office in Texas. Holy crap. And this is what I'm talking about with the police. They understand the assignment, maintain the status quo, keep the plebes in their place. This is what we're seeing. And we've got to be more committed to ourselves and our futures, our children's futures, than we are.
Because we've got
to stand together. Like it's not going to happen separately. And the reason they're able to do this is because we're not banding together. We are stronger than them. They are afraid of us, and we need to make them feel that.
Yeah, and even when you got to watch it, because they will let you feel okay about them, brutalizing rioters when it's Black Lives Matter and they stole a candy bar from the CVS or whatever. But remember, when them tariffs hit and them prices increase, now everybody's gonna want to be out there in the streets. And what did you say it's okay for them to do when the people take to the streets? So again, like you can keep letting them come after everybody else if you want to.
But
I wouldn't recommend.
We'll come back in 5 years. How'd that work out for you?
I wouldn't recommend it. Look, Mike, we gotta let the people get up out of here. Give us your closing thoughts on all this.
Primary from the left.
Yeah, I mean that's a pretty good one. My thing is just let's just recognize that part of being a human being is the full suite of emotions, including fear. And there's so many situations that we look at, what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on with the controversy in our country, where there is a lot of political intrigue right now, but there's also a lot of victims. And when we really start to dehumanize each other, when we lose sight of that. So I definitely say let's keep that in mind. But look, I gotta add all the banners and the lists and all that, but I will say thanks to everybody for being here. Thanks so much to the mods. Thanks to all of the members and the supporters of Skeptic Haven. Remember to check out the other shows throughout the week. And thanks to all the mods. So that'll do it for us tonight. We will be back in 2 weeks, every other Monday. So yeah, look forward to seeing you guys then. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. Said I'm gone.